but soon he will learn manners. I will torture his body so that his soul learns to be humble.
Okay, he know we just talking here, right? I mean, we just getting people interested in
Cage Against the Machine.
We are live, round zero. Cage Against the Machine. We are here celebrating and talking about UFC 235.
It is indeed.
Which is John Jones versus Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
I am the SweetMBA. I am joined by
the Dr. JK Akins.
We have a lot to catch you up on, Cage Cousins. A lot has happened in the world of MMA.
Indeed.
A couple things to start off. Thank you for the compliments. Over the last couple months, we've heard from our thousands and thousands of fans that we are officially the black Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith of MMA.
Not sure who's who, but...
And I'm not sure why black Stephen A. Smith had to be said, but...
redundancy is, I guess, is a part of the deal, so.
So I'll leave that where it was. That was a huge compliment. Appreciate you that. Shout out to Fred Yu for supplying me with my Wakandan vibranium-powered rash guard. I might have to choke a Lyft driver on our way home.
And yet again, congratulations again on the baby girl.
Absolutely. It is still Black History Month.
So I've heard.
So we're going to celebrate some Black history, some great things. A lot has happened that we have to catch up on. If you did
Before we get into that, can I mention one thing since we mentioned Black History Month?
Here we goes. Yep.
I have grown sincerely agitated by those who praise Martin Luther King Jr. without including Malcolm X. Here's why.
Okay.
Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. at the time were yin and yang. The main reason why Martin Luther King Jr. was as successful as he is because those who were a part of the oppressing Klan were fearful of Malcolm X. And that is what forced those who were a part of the oppressors to praise Martin Luther King Jr. so much because they saw Martin Luther King Jr. as the lesser of two evils. That's just being frank. That is the bottom line, because in my personal estimation, it is completely disrespectful to mention and praise Dr. Martin Luther King without including Malcolm X because you couldn't have one without the other.
I think it's just, again, the limited bandwidth that people have for their own knowledge and their own awareness of where they come from. So they latch on to one because it's easier and it's lazy, and they just generally don't know, to understand Martin Luther King in of itself, you should understand the fraternal organization he came from. You should understand the training. You should understand the neighborhood he came from. Shout out to Killer Mike for making trouble with Trigger Warning. I appreciate you. There's a lot of things to be said, and then there's a whole bunch of people around him. He did not do his work by himself.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think it's as easy as, in a lot of ways, I think what often happens, and the oldest trick in the book, is to sell people on the either or, and so that they believe that they're deep in a sense of knowledge, but they're surface, right? Which is a great segue. Speaking of two approaches to the same sense of liberation. Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya. That first round was, to me, I know what you're going to say. Yes, obviously somebody was 41 in that ring. However, for the amount of casual fans, I think Israel's speech after the fight, for the amount of people who came into UFC and MMA because they watch Israel or Voldemort or John or all these things, for them to understand what happened in that first round between those two, one of the best fights of all time.
Here's the problem. The problem for me is in my estimation, Israel Adesanya showed Anderson Silva too much respect. Too much.
Sure.
At the end of the day,
Yes,
it's a fight in the octagon.
No, it was a sparring match. He kept it a sparring match. Sure, yes, yes.
And you know how I feel about those things. When you go out there and you murder them and you leave no doubt.
But why does he have to? Okay, to be the martial artist, did he have to murder him to make a point? He made his point. He still won. He's got a title shot. He's got a title shot.
Not really. He didn't really make a point.
I think he made a huge point. I think the respect.
What was the point?
I think in an era where we're always disgusted by Voldemort, Cokehead Jones, and their behavior, I think he went the opposite way and said that you could show respect and you could get a draw.
Which I have no gripe about that. But the language that you choose to use and your performance in the octagon are not mutually exclusive.
No, but I think that was what he was trying to embody with that. And we understand, as martial artists, as fighters, as athletes, we know who won. We know who won.
Sure.
We know who won 30 seconds in.
Sure.
We know if it kept happening, he was going to knock out Anderson. But obviously, when you look at them number by number, you knew Israel. There is no part of the world where a 41-year-old man generally stands a chance against a 21-year-old.
True.
We know.
True.
But I think that the technique that they exhibited at a high level, how many people in the world have ever seen high level sparring? You get experience with that. I get experience with that.
Yeah,
Most people have never. Now that we have Instagram, now they have an understanding and they can look at the technique. So I thought that was great.
Sure.
And I'm glad to see that we're having this interim belt. I'd really also like to see a fight between Antibiotics and Gastelum's staff.
Well, there is that, but.
And in other news, GSP. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Was it really news though?
Yeah, like it was a surprise. Like,
retirement. I knew that after he won the fight.
I'm not touching Khabib. He basically just said he doesn't think Khabib can be beat. So that was interesting. What's one of the fights on UFC 235's prelims or early prelims that you're excited about, and why?
Definitely Holy Holm and Aspen Ladd.
Yes, tell me more. What's your feeling on this?
Well, obviously we've got it's the dynamic that we rarely see in women's mixed martial arts.
Okay,
which is the wily combat sport veteran, against the young upstart.
Okay,
we generally see that in men's mixed martial arts and not women's.
We're finally at the point where it's almost where they're starting to feed the young fighter by using the old fighter.
Yes.
We have come through that cycle finally.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes. Very cool. I think that this is only going to elevate women's mixed martial arts to another level.
Agreed.
Because one of two things could happen.
Yes.
You know what I always say. Young fighters tend to lose these type of fights.
Yeah.
However, if Aspen Ladd, if she finds a way to beat Holly Holm, we could be looking at the next women's martial arts megastar.
Agreed. And I think what's interesting about this one...
MMA Gold, by the way. I see y'all. Stand up.
Yeah, straight up. Sacramento. Shout out to my boy Max. And that was a terrible decision. Just don't fight in Brazil anymore, Max.
I mean, seriously.
Just don't. And fighters don't fight in Brazil. Brazilian fighters don't fight in Brazil. You should clean up your own stuff.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to put on. It's hard to put on events in Brazil in the first place because it's hard to get sponsors.
Yeah.
I have seen, some stuff that has happened behind the scenes with the UFC in Brazil. That's just ooh.
Yeah. I have a slightly different permutation about the Ladd versus Holm fight. And so I think you're going to see a new Holm post-divorce. I think there's a different mindset because this person is going to take risks that they wouldn't take before. There's a different energy going on with that. And then you have a full team.
I didn't even know she was married.
Yeah. And then you have a full team of, Pictogram-backed individuals to help her. I just want to point out...
We'll be revisiting that later.
I want to do a special shout out to one Mr. Jeff Novitzky, who made a claim that, and I quote, MMA fans generally do not have PhDs in chemical engineering.
Well,
sir.
well,
sir. As UFC's liaison, to USADA testing, I'd like to introduce you to the Dr. JK Akins, who happens to have, aside from 2 black belts,
a PhD in chemical engineering.
I cry foul on you, sir. I cry foul, and your protection and nonsense around John Jones. We see you. So anyways, with all those picograms that she could pull from, I think we'll see a different Holly Holm. I think our criticism has always been she doesn't have finishing power except against Ronda. We might see something. But then when you take Aspen Ladd, she's on a tear. So here's my thought.
The kid is a murderer, man.
If Holm keeps it standing, she wins by decision. Mm-hmm. If Ladd gets it to the ground, Holm is going to bleed into the stands.
And you're probably right about that, sir.
Okay, cool. A fight that I'm pretty excited about.
Which would be?
In the prelims. I can't say his last name, but the Latvian, Misha.
Oh, Misha Cirkunov.
Versus Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
Which sounds weird, because Misha's say it again?
Cirkunov.
What the boy name? It does sound like a vodka.
It does. Now, see, I got to give a big shout out to Latvia. Here's the reason why. Now, if I had to guess, Latvia is a country that is on the western border of Russia. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, probably less than 2 million people, maybe. And maybe the country may be the size of less than, 70,000 square miles.
And it's got a famous hometown hero.
Not only that.
By the name of Victor Von Doom.
Not only that, but this country has, in the last decade, produced elite athletes across the board. We're talking about Davis Bertans, Kristaps Porzingis. Cirkunov is just the latest installment of phenomenal athlete to come out of Latvia. It's crazy.
There's just something about that part of Europe where people are like, you know what, I got to make it happen. I've got to make it happen.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you watch any of the NBA at all, we're talking about Davis Bertans, who may be one of the best shooters in the world today, and then Kristaps Porzingis, just a freak of nature, a 7'3" power forward who can handle the ball, shoot. And to see, then we have Misha Cirkunov. You inject that, and there is no way that this many elite athletes should come out of a country of less than 2 million people.
Right. And
it's incredible.
And then he's going to face Yanni Walker.
Oh, boy.
Who, again, it's a liquor. 6 foot, 6 foot.
Black label.
Might be the Brazilian Sagat from Street Fighter. The 6 foot.
Tiger uppercut.
Muay Thai master who just ends people in the first round.
Yeah.
Has his TKO or his combo of that one dude, the Texas dude who was talking about he wanted to be heavyweight champion so he could teach people about flat earth. Man, that was painful, but it was hilarious.
It was brutal.
It was brutal. I was looking for this fight.
That was hard to watch.
I might even sneak in another one.
Really?
Yeah, I might even sneak in another one that I think people are sleeping on that could be a little bit.
Oh, do you mean Jeremy Stevens?
No. And
Zabit Magomed Sharapov?
That's not in the main card?
No.
You.
They killed Kenny.
Jeremy Stevens, the comeback king, when he gets hurt, his ability to turn a flying knee into a saving grace is still like a really cool moment. But if you haven't heard me say it before, I'll say it again. When people ask, what kind of martial arts do you train? Have you ever heard of Zabit? Do you know Zabit?
Magomed Sharapov.
I love how you say that fast. It's like you should get a free pizza with that.
That would be great, actually.
Like, let's just do that the next time. Like somebody says something crazy to us on BART. Like some homeless dude says something, you just say that really fast.
Magomed Sharapov.
Yeah. Zabit comes out of the esteemed land of Dagestan, and he trains with
Ricardo Almeida.
Yeah, and most recently, my boy Marlon Moraes.
Oh, Marlon Moraes.
Same crew.
Yeah, same camp. Yep. Same
as
same camp.
Frankie Edgar.
Right.
And
Mark Henry in that.
and then the new one who's got what's his name? He's got the same last name as dude who starched Voldemort. God, it's on the tip from AKA. Come on, the Eagle.
Yeah. What about you? You're talking about Nurmagomedov?
Yeah, he's a Nurmagomedov. He's one of his cousins.
Oh, he's one of his cousins.
Remember,
That's right. Yeah.
Remember he just had that on the fight night on ESPN? He just had those disgusting spinning techniques to grapples. Yeah. So I really appreciate their style. But again, shout out to Alliance MMA and the stuff that they've done with Jeremy Stephens. I'm excited about that. I was actually going to bring
Here's something interesting about Jeremy Stephens that I actually heard from Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
He said that Jeremy Stephens hasn't shown this growth until he fully committed himself to training at Alliance.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Because generally, in my estimation, you always should look for new ways to learn in different camps. Because not every formula is going to work for every fighter.
But I think as we learned from our wonderful guest, who I believe is fighting Saturday.
Correct.
So, hey, we're with you, Hector. As he said, until he got up out of his comfort zone and committed completely to being an alpha male, that's when things locked in and he was able to go pro. So I think, yes, I would agree with you. I would say there's one approach that maybe you respond to different camps, and one approach seems that you have to immerse yourself. I think it depends on the athlete.
Yeah, sure.
I also want to highlight this fight with Polyana Viana.
Yes, and Hannah Cyphers.
What a name. Sounds like a rapper. Hannah Cyphers.
With no Y and I.
If you don't know about Polyana, she is pretty famous for some dude tried to rob her on her way out of practice.
And she beat that man
She beat him and documented it on Instagram, then called the police. And as the police were coming, she was on Instagram Live explaining to him all the things he did wrong in the fight. And he's just sitting there bubbling blood and crying like, I'm sorry. It was... So she has a huge fan base now going into this fight.
And then on top of that, if you didn't see the guy, the dude looked like Martin in that episode against Martin. Man, it was bad.
Or you may know him as his other name because he just recently fought against a very famous Filipino boxer.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
What do we know about Hannah Cyphers other than her rap battle name?
Well, with Hannah Cyphers, she is an interesting young lady. What I tried to get out of Cyphers after watching her fights was it seems like she gets caught into a rhythm, and a rhythm in a fight that is not necessarily conducive to her success.
Right. Probably listen to the same songs when she trains.
She does. Yep. She does have a strong Muay Thai background. However, with that Muay Thai background, she tends to fall into this rhythm and this repetition that can be easily seen.
Right. Yeah. You can see that. Yep.
And with her last fight, she fought the phenom Macy Barbers.
Ooh.
And Macy Barbers did away with her.
Barbered her.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how much she has learned, from that fight. And the same thing with Polyana Viana. Like, has she learned from that loss to Aldridge?
Macy Barber helped her catch this fade.
Yeah, Macy Barbers. If you haven't seen Macy Barbers, she is the former Legacy champion. And she relinquished her title to come to the UFC.
Right. And then the debate we always have is, can they jump up? Interesting stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are round 0. We're about to get into it. Take a few seconds. We need to shout out somebody who's very important by the name of DeShawn Davis at Dream Air Productions.
Yes, indeed.
Who edits, who films, who puts all our graphics together, who lights it, who gives us special effects. You see that? Fireball. He makes everything happen.
Sounds so good. Don't you agree?
And since you're in the clapping mood, give it up for my band.
Make him clap to this.
Make him clap. We're going to give him a second. We'll be right back.
Holla at your boy.
But not on collect.
Ever.
This is Tyson Griffin.
Sean Bunch.
Myron the Hitman Smith.
Jordan the Juggernaut Powell.
Maurício Alonso. Shout out to Cage Against the Machine, MMA Podcast, MMA Fantasy League for you.
You Google him right now, because I'm about to Google him.
And we are black.
As hell.
All history. All month. You
All
may
day.
not know me, but
All year.
my name is Crispus Atticus.
He went there.
Shout out, speaking of black things, shout out to Ja getting his black belt.
Mr. Shia, what up, brother?
Hey, that was incredible. Thank you for inviting us.
Man, welcome to the world of black belt, my brother.
Right.
We got to get Brett caught up.
I'm gonna get a black belt and cookie eating.
Hey, shoot. Hey, Oreos are the joint.
No, you know.
I'm sorry, Girl Scout mints.
Right.
Thin mints.
Thin mints. Well, yeah, and also, you know where I train is kind of like the Mr. Miyagi thing. You know, They're like, you know.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah, it's more of a, you know.
Go and build this car.
Yeah, it's like, where you get
Paint
your belt?
the fence.
It's like, where you get your belt? J.C. Penney, $3.99. But this principle is there, right? As I was trying to explain to my lovely wife, which is the idea at a jiu-jitsu school is if you can choke out all the brown belts, you get a black belt, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's that same principle. It's like if you fight everybody and you know you can take them 9 out of 10 times, that's how you climb up. So It was an inspiring moment. So thank you.
Right on, Ja.
Speaking of black belts in a Black History Month, we're going to get into the main card of 235, which is...
Don't want to be premature.
Pause. John Jones versus Anthony Smith. Our first fight of the card is a bantamweight bantamweight fight between one Cody Garbrandt.
He wishes it was for a belt.
I know he wishes, and Pedro Munoz, who might also be Frankie Edgar in disguise. They kind of have the same hair and face. So this is an interesting one on multiple levels. I have openly been critical of Garbrandt in the past.
And rightfully so.
I have said that he has been overhyped and undertrained. I am also...
Couldn't be more on point.
I'm going to be sensitive to the fact of alpha male being Northern California and also...
I will not.
Embracing the homie Hector. So I have to be mindful of these things.
I do not.
I also am really impressed recently with the alliance between Alpha Male and Pleasanton CSA.
I guess.
That striking may have created some of the best marriages since Javier Mendez decided I'm going to recruit nothing but grapplers and
no Whitney and Bobby.
And kickboxing, AKA. Garbrandt's movement against Eddie Absolo really shows his improvement.
What movement?
The new videos that I've seen, he's stepping differently, he's throwing kicks differently.
I won't believe it until I see it in a fight.
And I think as a good metric, if we saw what Andre Feely did recently by controlling the range with that jab, I think we can see more of that from Garbrandt.
Except for the fact that he's shorter and has shorter arms.
Agreed. And we know he has the boxing. So that being said, going up against Munoz, I'm going to say, when I'm surprised to hear this come out of my mouth, Garbrandt by KO.
Doesn't he wish? Yeah, let's face it. Garbrandt's time as a contender is already done.
Sure.
And I know that's got to be depressing because he's a young man. Because as long as Dillashaw is the champion, he will never sniff another title shot because he doesn't deserve one after getting finished twice.
Okay.
The only thing that he can do is hope to continuously battle top 10 competitors and win, and he'll have to wait it out. That's literally what he would have to do. And maybe, just maybe, by the time he is qualified for another title shot, he'll probably have gray hairs in his beard like me. Anyway, with Pedro Munoz, it's interesting because we are still looking for the Pedro Munoz that was the RFA champion. That same je ne sais quoi that UFC matchmakers saw when they saw him as the champion in the RFA, which is now the LFA.
Right.
What I'm wondering is, how big does Pedro Munoz realize this fight is? Because for him, if he wins this fight, this puts him in the conversation as the next man up at 135.
Yeah. And I see it's probably
Garbrandt is stuck like Chuck. You know, it's kind of like, Indiana Jones walking through the jungle and then you step in quicksand.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like if Garbrandt beats Munoz, he still has to get through Moraes to get back up there again.
And not only Moraes, it's going to be more than that.
And
like I said,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas I feel like Munoz could catch a fast track.
Yes.
And there's still that dangling thing because we know they're going to run it back. They're going to run the Cejudo thing back, and we know Cejudo wants to come up. So that's interesting. So your pick is Munoz.
I got Munoz by decision.
By decision. Fair. Okay. Moving on to our next fight, we have Tecia Torres
versus Weili Zhang.
I love his jet black African North Oakland self pronouncing Chinese. He knows I wait for him to do it because you know that I know Chinese, that I enjoy this culture. But when he does it, this is how I know we're going to win. We're going to win, people. Okay. How do I sum this up?
No matter
That's
what.
all we do. You may know Tecia Torres as the girlfriend of one, or maybe they're married now. I'm sorry.
Raquel
Pennington, who unfortunately had to be on the receiving end of a Amanda Nunes beatdown.
Which was really interesting because
She may be one of the first people to take Amanda that kind of distance and score.
not
that kind
only
of damage.
that, but what made the dynamic of that fight interesting is the fact that they are so close.
Yes. Yeah, that they're all friends.
Yes.
And that they're all
And it shows exactly what I've been saying.
Yeah.
Like this whole team concept in mixed martial arts, that should need to go.
Yeah,
Period.
I couldn't be more on the other side of that argument.
It's gotta go. One person walks in the octagon, one person comes out. It's that simple.
I'm not fighting JK for money.
I mean,
I'm not.
and I get that, but we're talking about you and me. I'm talking about professionals. This is what you do for a living. Get in there and handle business.
So,
because let me tell you this.
Would you do another podcast to diss me for money?
Sure.
See? That's it. See? I don't play that. I just don't.
Of course, I would tell you about it first.
Of course, but I just can't do that because then you start. To me, that's that fakery. That's that.
Well, you got a point.
That's that KML versus 94.9.
You got a point there.
Stuff.
You got a point there.
That's that Interscope Def Jam fakery. That backroom Death Row versus Bad Boy fakery stuff. I can't do that.
You know what, man?
I'm hot and cold, man.
You got a point. You got a point.
When I don't like you, I don't like you.
I can't.
When I love you, I love you.
I can't dispute that. I really have no gripe with that.
But this is back to what we were saying last fight, last podcast.
Right.
You are an athlete.
Right.
You show up to perform.
Right.
Me, I think I'm learning more and more. I might be a fighter. I actually probably will do better if I hate you.
Yeah.
Right?
I hear that. Me personally, if you are on the other side of me, I don't care if you're friend or foe. I'm coming for you. Period.
I remember I used to run this group, this like student group at a school that Double D went. And they're like, okay, teach us how to freestyle, right? And there's this guy, he's like, one day I wanna battle Nas. And I was like, why? He's like, 'cause he's my favorite rapper. I was like, if that's your favorite, you shouldn't be trying to battle him.
Well, why not?
But what you're saying from a competition standpoint, you would want to beat the best.
Absolutely.
For me,
all the time.
Yeah, I'm different.
All the time. I'm coming for you. It don't matter what it is. I don't care if we playing Parcheesi. Player, I'm coming for you.
Right. I'm very
Connect
different.
4, Monopoly, I don't give a damn.
Right.
I'm coming for you.
Did someone say Monopoly? Did someone want to play?
Come on, let's play Monopoly.
Does somebody want to play the SweetMBA and Monopoly?
All day. Whenever you ready. I told you.
Today. Yesterday. We can do it for real money. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So how do we break this down? Let's just be real, shall we?
Okay, please do.
Tecia can't strike. Zhang can't submit. This fight is going to be decided in the clinch.
Tecia can't strike.
My guess is that it will probably be Zhang by decision.
On my face right here? Is that like easy to see, or am I? Tecia Torres can't strike. Boy, I never thought I'd hear those words. I feel like
she can move her hands and feet.
I feel like I've stepped into the Twilight Zone and I have no idea what the hell I've been watching.
Pillows.
That's literally how I feel right now.
Pillows. You're just biased because you're one of them karate guys, so you like those. Hi.
Well, actually, I'm Taekwondo, but
fair.
I
Pillows.
Okay, well, I guess
pillows. She needs a boxing class. All right, who was your pick?
Well, I'm only picking Torres just for the simple fact that I don't feel like I know enough about Zhang.
Fair.
Because there's only one fight out there that I was able to see.
Yes.
I know that she has other fights in other organizations, but those were not available for me to watch.
Same. So interesting thing, she's in the same camp as the Leech. So Black Lion.
Okay.
And that's a lot of where the Sancho guys are starting to learn. Because, every area has a weakness.
Right.
And for many years, we couldn't get people to wrestle and nobody knew how to deal with jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I think that's been, wrestling is not, grappling is native to China, but wrestling and jiu-jitsu may not, the application of it.
Right.
I think that Black Lion is kind of teaching them how to do that. So,
and by the way, if you don't know jiu-jitsu, remember my golden rule. When you go to their place, you punch them in the face. It changes the whole fight. There you go.
Should be like a G.I. Joe, like, when you go. All right, so we have our decision here. Moving to our next fight. Oh, controversy. Can you smell it coming? We've been fighting about this for years.
Oh, man.
Our text message wars are about to end next Saturday.
And they have been epic.
So you have one Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren. Robbie Lawler, the former welterweight champion of the UFC. A student of the Pat Miletich system in the early days. Then transferred over to ATT.
Yep.
Known for that famous fight with Rory McDonald. Mental toughness.
Epic battle.
Kind of a monster. A little bit scary. And then the things he says, where you're like, well, what did you change in your regiment? I don't spar anymore. Why don't you spar? I know how to fight. He's just, the mindset's a little scary. Then you have Ben Askren. Who, by many measures of collegiate wrestlers, is the scariest collegiate wrestler there is. He is a training partner to one of Dr. JK Akins' favorite fighters, in the name of Tyron Woodley, who we'll come back to. Askren was a former ONE FC champion who was undefeated. Now, if you don't know the background, why JK is saying he's boring is Askren is known for a high level of wrestling where he literally grabs people like small babies, picks them up, and holds them there so they can't do anything, and there's no striking, he takes no damage. From a fighter standpoint, this is very compelling, okay? Because you're saying that he's able to enter the fight and win without taking damage. No. From a viewer standpoint, this is a snooze fest, and he's going up against somebody who's looking and has a historic ability to give lots of damage. Where will this end? This is the question we've been trying to ask. Will this go well? I suspect Askren wins by submission. The question is when.
Askren wins by what? What fight has he ever finished?
Submission. Have you heard of it? It's...
What?
Okay.
Oh, man.
What fight has he finished? Have you ever seen his Twitter wars against Dana? He always wins.
Yeah, luckily those don't count.
They should.
I bet you believe they should. But listen. My only gripe with Askren is not that he's boring necessarily. My gripe with him is that he's been talking all of this snot while facing cupcakes. That is where my issue is. Now you finally got a guy who's not a cupcake. Now let's see what happens. This is his opportunity to prove to me that he actually belongs on this level. And until I see it, I won't believe it. It's kind of like watching that episode of Scooby-Doo, right? you got all the kids, and they're in the mystery machine. They get to the scene of the crime, and they see the ghost, but they don't actually believe that the ghost is real. That's what Ben Askren is. He is the antagonist in a Scooby-Doo episode.
I was with you until you said the ghost, but they always seem to run from him.
but that's my point.
And then he's always got the same shoes on, and then they wait.
Finding out that the damn ghost isn't real.
Mr. McCready. And it would have worked.
Mr. McCready!
If it wasn't for you meddling kids and that mangy dog. Yeah, I think you're right. This is put up or shut up. But if Askren wins, the level of smack talk.
Oh, yeah, sure. But you know me, I'm not really one for smack talk. I'm one for punching somebody's teeth through their
What I
face.
think is intriguing, and not that I'm saying I want this to happen, but I think we could see, if Askren wins, I think we could see a 165 division.
It could happen. Well, I think it could happen either way, but
And I think 170 could go up to 175. And then that kind of evens things out.
Yeah, it could happen, sure.
But this is interesting. Yeah, you're right. This is the put up or shut up moment of
But let me tell you, if Lawler knocks him out, you will never hear the end of it from me.
Or Dana. The memes. Remember his face when Cyborg got knocked out? That
Man.
face will be everywhere. It'll be floating. He'll be like,
I tell you, if Askren is not able to win this fight and Lawler knocks him out, you will never hear the end of it from me, because I will say until I am purple in the face that I told you so.
I know, but you won't be the only one. I mean, think about all the other people who have a vested interest in him losing, aside from Dana.
I don't have a vested interest in him losing. I'm actually hoping that he proves me wrong and he belongs on this level.
Again, a true athlete. He's like, look, I want to see it. Me, I'm
Just
petty.
prove it to me.
I'm petty. I don't want to see Woodley's boy lose. And I do want to see them shake up and do a 165.
You know what? I could dig that with a shovel, but guess what? Again, one man comes in, one man comes out.
What is this, the Thunderdome? What is Who ruled Bordertown?
It's just that simple. One man goes in, one man comes out. That's it.
I would like to see him against Kron.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Do you really think that? Well, never mind. That's a conversation for another day.
Right.
I don't really feel like Kron Gracie. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that name.
I know how to provoke him.
Because now what you're about to hear right now
is not a test. Why are you rocking to the beat?
What you're about to hear right now is not a very popular opinion. Can we stop acting like the Gracies are great? Can we stop that? Can we stop that? And what I mean by that is, yes, they are the first family of jiu-jitsu, but when it comes to mixed martial arts competition, they have not been good. That is just the bottom line. And can we stop acting like they are? Because they're not.
That's
Prior to Kron's win last week,
okay.
Gracie's 0-4-1 in UFC competition. Need I say more? The proof is in the pudding. Okay, thank you.
0-4-1.
That is correct.
What era are you talking about?
All eras.
Oh, as in zero, as in never won.
Never won up until Kron.
A Gracie has never won a UFC competition.
Not prior to Hoist. No, after Hoist.
So that doesn't count as one?
After Hoist. Let me clarify. Okay. After Hoist.
Now I'm trying to understand.
Not another Gracie has won in UFC competition.
It's not a secret that Gracies don't like to strike. It's not a secret that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Machado Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu likes to tell people that all fights end up on the ground.
I'm just saying that we need to stop acting like that there was this era of greatness, and there wasn't.
There was in the pioneer stage, yes. In the same era that, how do I want to put this?
That was UFC 1.
Yes. Like back to what we were talking about. Okay. Was the Sugar Hill Gang great in terms of getting rap music on the radio? Yes. Were they great rappers? No. Were they great lyricists? Terrible biters. Were they great battlers? Don't even get me started.
Okay.
Were they great showmen? Oh my God. Fat musical men. But in the era of getting rap music over disco and getting that on the radio and getting us to enjoy it, great. So I'll give them credit that, yes, give them credit there. Now, what you're saying is, okay, if we take all of the UFCs, all the Pride, all the other things.
Let's put it all in a gumbo,
Correct.
and let's see what comes out. The only thing you're getting is crab. You're not getting all the ingredients. You're getting crab.
Great, let's say as a family, as a camp, let's treat them as a camp, did pretty good in the early days. Because you also got to factor in Hickson and Henzo.
But again, no.
But I would
UFC
actually
wins.
say, I would say in terms of teachers.
Yes, and that's what I mean.
Unparalleled.
That's why I made the distinction of UFC competition.
Sure.
They have not been great.
Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a pause moment.
And probably sip on some beer.
And talk to one of our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Reed's Jamaican Ginger Ale. They haven't actually sponsored us, but DeShawn enjoys it. And,
Yes.
And we enjoy Jamaicans, so it's a win-win. And ginger is good for fighting colds.
I knew there something was going on when DeShawn sent us that text message.
Yeah, no, he just likes ginger. I taught him well.
Okay.
Ginger is very good for the stomach, and it cleans out the nasal passages. See, we're all about wellness here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm the SweetMBA. I'm always joined by
The Dr. JK Akins.
everything you're experiencing, hearing, and seeing with these special effects is brought to you by DeShawn Davis at Dream Air Productions.
Look at those lasers coming out of my fingers.
Pew, 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 and we'll be back.
We made it this far because of you, and we need more. If you tuned into Cage Against the Machine podcast via iTunes, we need you to act. Follow us on iTunes, rate us, comment, share with your friends, and post this podcast to your social media. Thank you.
And we are black.
As hell.
And it is our month. You may not know me, but my name is W.E. Du Bois.
Yes, indeed.
My lovely wife went on Wikipedia, said it's pronounced Du Bois. I said, Wikipedia has how many employees who look like us?
Probably 0.
Then I showed her the Wikipedia for my family. She's like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Got it. That's, well, yes.
Yeah.
Alexandria, Library of Alexandria.
Big shout out to Mrs. Sweet, by the way. We see you.
Yes. You're going to be a Mrs. Sweet. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
That's even crazy when someone calls me Mr. Sweet. I'm like, is my dad here? Better sit up straight in my chair. We are now to the co-main event of the evening, which is super exciting for multiple reasons. I wish this fight was actually in February, because then we could have had a back-to-black.
Yes, indeed.
We are going to see the welterweight.
Proceed to give you what you need. Yes, indeed. Okay, go ahead.
Take that. We're going to see the welterweight champion Tyron Woodley versus Nigeria's own
Kamaru Usman.
This is very interesting. This brings up an old rivalry that's a little bit bitter. If you guys may remember an early version of Tough, where it was South Florida.
Yes.
American top team represented by Tyron Woodley versus Kamaru Usman. That's probably not how you say your name. But
Kamaru Usman.
I don't care. You're talking that stuff to Israel, and I don't like it.
Nigerian on Nigerian crime is never good.
Oh, man. This crime is never good.
Yeah.
And then Usman comes from the Black Zillions, which has now actually been reshaped as Combat Club, which is a combination of Greg Jones and Rashad Evans wrestling, Henry Hoost's kickboxing, and Luke Rockhold's jiu-jitsu infusion of that. So it's been a very interesting progress. If you want to see some touch points of that, check out Vicente Luque's fight last week, and you'll see that kind of progress.
Good.
I'm working on it.
Well done.
I'm working on that.
Well done.
Another famous member of that camp is Michael Johnson. We also have, what's my man's name? Gilbert Burns.
Yes, Gilbert Burns.
So-
also Matt Mitrione.
Matt Mitrione.
Stefan Struve.
Yes. So a deep and wide kind of competition level. Also, someone who's not talked about enough that they need to get back into the UFC is Jason Jackson. Big up Massive. So this is a very interesting fight from multiple levels. Since the sale to William Morris, we keep seeing this trend of feeding the old to the new and the young. And then this 2019 season kicked off, and then there's something started where there was this 2.0 version of an older fighter. Mm-hmm. And they are facing it. And we just saw that against Israel being the new evolution of Anderson and them fighting.
Right.
What's strange to me is this feels like Usman is the new version of Woodley, with some exceptions, though.
Well, some huge ones.
I would say that Usman is stronger than Woodley.
Possibly.
However, Woodley is faster.
Possibly.
More experienced.
Definitely.
And Woodley has been a undefeated lineal champion.
True.
This makes me think that this will be a wrestling chess match, but in the end, Woodley by decision. Les thoughts?
That's a very interesting assessment. I would point out a couple of things. Woodley is by far the better striker, and it's not even close.
No.
Usman may be stronger than Woodley, possibly, but I actually think their wrestling will cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Which is why...
That's why I said chess match.
Yeah. Usman's striking just isn't good enough to beat Woodley. It's really just that simple. I think I see Woodley picking Usman apart with the jab for 5 rounds.
Okay. Sure.
I just think he's going to pick him apart.
Yeah.
And Woodley generally likes to throw in some kicks, but he will not do that in this fight. He is going to circle away from Usman. He's going to use the jab, use his footwork. He's going to force Usman into an ill-advised shot and probably catch him with an uppercut or two.
And end up choking him. Yeah, I'd agree.
I actually picked Woodley by decision, but it wouldn't surprise me if he submitted him.
That's why I'm actually not also a fan of this splitting up this division. So Usman can either take over 65 or, you know what I mean? Because I do like the guy a lot. I do want him.
I like Usman, but I mean, for me, I'm not partial to anyone. So I just feel like you get what you earn, you know.
Yeah.
And at this point, Usman has earned this title shot, but at the end of the day, he also has to earn the title. So even if they choose not to split up the division, it doesn't really hurt me none.
I hear you. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that part that you watch our show for. It is now
the main event of the evening.
Are you going to say that? Oh, okay, because we're not going to do the full one because of this guy. Got it. Sorry. Yeah. We normally would be able to get more excited, but we didn't have enough picograms in our cereal today.
No.
We're going to have a fight between John I Smoke Bones Jones.
I forgot to put Turnable in my milk this morning.
Oh, straight up. You know, the Russians didn't come by. I mean, Mueller has found out that the Russians were involved in the election, but nobody found that the Russians put steroids in my butt today.
Definitely.
Versus Anthony Smith. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Anthony Smith. When I look at him and looks are deceiving, he does not look like us. But then I watch his UFC interviews and his children look like us.
Yes.
Explain.
He's half.
You stand no chance, John Jones. None. But that's not true. I'd love to tell you people that Anthony Smith has this power that's unparalleled that will destroy Jones. that when he catches him, he's going to drop him and Jones won't know what to do. But that's not what's going to happen. Jones has a lot of problems outside the ring and inside the ring, and he's disgusting to me in that way. But one thing I can never get away from, and you saw that especially against somebody like Alexander Gustafsson. John Jones is the master of range. He controls the long range, the mid-range, and the short range with his strikes and his grappling in a way that is unparalleled.
There's just one question. Has he ever done that clean?
No. We haven't gotten there, but he's also, so if he's the Lord of Range, he's also the God of cheating.
Just saying.
He is that guy. You know, if you were playing a role-playing game and you wanted to learn how to like sneak, you know, like go and learn how to sneak into somebody's house and steal, you have to go to him. You know, he knows that. So ultimately, Jones will win by spinning elbow KO.
Okay.
And he will test negative. He'll test for hot again after this fight.
And
they'll move the fight at the last minute to Mexico or something to, you know.
And as all of you know, I pride myself on being unbiased and giving an honest opinion based on what I have seen out of each fighter and how I believe these two fighters match up with one another. I pride myself on being that guy. The one thing that we are missing in mixed martial arts, especially with we as media people, the one thing that we are missing is the ability to be unbiased. And yes, I'm calling you out, Ariel Helwani.
And Luke Thomas, since you want to stand next to him.
And Ariel Helwani for a specific reason.
Since you want to stand next to him.
For a very specific reason. And that reason being, and Ariel, I'm talking to you right now, so I want you to look into this camera, look in my eyes, and I'm going to tell you straight up that the way that you treated Greg Hardy was absolutely despicable. Now you decide to grow some balls now that you've gotten that contract with ESPN. But you and I both know, you're about as small as a fire ant. And for you to treat Greg Hardy that way during an interview with millions of people watching, but you sit up there and you ride Conor McGregor's coattail, who is a Irish national who committed a felony on U.S. soil. But you have the nerve to call out Greg Hardy. You've got a lot of damn nerve.
I just want to point out that Dr. JK is from Mozambique, and in Africa they have plenty of fire ants, and he's probably seen a fire ant. So this is not him just shooting from the hip.
So to me, that is just so disgusting. And for you to be, at this point, the premier mixed martial arts person in media is disgusting to me. I feel like you have no place. Because to treat a fighter like Greg Hardy like that, and then turn around and in the same breath praise Conor McGregor. There's this certain word that's kind of floating around out there, but I'm not going to say it. Anyway.
What will I say? I will say that he's Canadian.
Sure.
You know who else is Canadian?
You mean besides George St. Pierre?
Yeah. You know who else is Canadian and doesn't know much about fighting?
Who would that be?
Drake. Have you seen his boxing videos?
Ah.
Hey, what a great week.
Okay, all right. We'll be here all week.
All week.
Anyway, with that being said,
Aubrey, you can catch these hands. I like how you keep the right hand low, so I can clip you. And Wiz Khalifa, we should fight. We should fight while you can still use your body, because I don't want to fight you when you're older and you're broken.
All right.
But since we're on that topic,
sure.
I take issue. I understand where you're going with that. I take issue with Ariel Helwani being called premier MMA journalism. I think.
Well, at this particular point, he is at the top.
If you define it by eyeballs, but he's really just a shill. I still contend this. I still think he works for Dana. Now, if I worked for Dana, I'd tell you that. But I still think he works for Dana. So he stands out.
He can't work for Dana and work for ESPN. That would be a direct conflict of interest.
I don't know that they care about that.
I know ESPN would. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact that they would. I know that for a fact.
That's a whole other episode to explain. That's the beauty of a multinational corporation. I am the Sweet MBA.
And I am sometimes, or actually all the time, Dr. JK Akins. But I will abstain from picking with this John Jones and Anthony Smith fight for the simple fact that I cannot remain unbiased. So I had to recuse myself.
I don't care. I'm going to be biased because I know the world I live in. We want to shout out DeShawn Davis for recording us and keeping the show going. And
and most importantly, putting up with me because, he has to adjust so many things because of my voice.
Which is great because he doesn't have to do it for me, which means my 20 years as a rapper is for something. I'm going to go out of the country for a while, so I hope I'll be back for our next episode. And if not, we'll figure something out. Maybe,
yes, indeed.
Maybe
yes,
we'll
indeed.
tape live and direct from
Congratulations to you, by the way.
So we'll be back. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. We'll get some more guests for you. Enjoy the fight. And without further ado...
Chill!